I don't know what to do. So you could probably tell by the thumbnail, I did decide to go to Pea Ridge, and I'm pretty glad that I did. I just left the visitor center. I'm already a pretty solid hour into this jaunt, and no fee, no charge to come to this particular park, so that's pretty awesome. But in the visitor center, there's a movie about Pea Ridge. I'm kind of surprised I'm not a little bit more familiar with it. I used to be a bit of a Civil War buff. Apparently not as good as I thought I was, but I was a little bit more familiar with Lookout Mountain and Gettysburg and Bull Run. Actually been to those places and Appomattox when I was a very, very young man, like over 40 years ago. So probably a little out of step with it. But as I pointed out in the videos so far, I'm pretty fascinated to be surrounded by all the Civil War history here. But Pea Ridge is very pivotal and a very well preserved battle site. And again, in the visitor center, they got just awesome actual artifacts in there and a very good representation of that. But the first place we're going to stop is, yes, it had a lot to do with the Civil War, but it's actually pre-Civil War, and it is a path, the Old Wire Road, also known as the Telegraph Road, on the Trail of Tears. This first stop, actually, although Civil War soldiers did use this is the remnants of the Old Wire Road or Telegraph Road, but this depression here is also a route on the Trail of Tears when the Cherokees and other Indians were pushed out of this area in 1830s. So this is part of the trail that they would have taken. There's also a segment of this trail in Fort Smith, and I neglected to film it, but stop number one. This is the second stop on the driving tour, and this would have been General Curtis's headquarters. I'm not going to go in and try to explain all the battle. It's way too in-depth, and this video is not going to be that long. You can do your own research, but this is basically where the Union side camped out and strategized and made their plans. But General Curtis had 10,500 soldiers. I'm sure they weren't all here, but this is basically the nerve center where all of the decisions were made for the two-day fight that went on here, where the Union actually became victorious. Curtis had about 10,500 soldiers, and they were up against over 16,000 Confederate soldiers. So this is Leetown battlefield, and at one point there were 7,000 Confederate soldiers just beyond those trees over there. And they had the Union Army on the run coming across here, but the Union soldiers being embarrassed about Bull Run where they had to retreat. Many of them retreated, but a small stand of them stopped and turned to fight. The Confederates kind of slowed down their charge, and General McCulloch told them to stand by while he was going to go and do a final scout. There's a small stand of Union soldiers in that area that held back that he didn't see, and they got him. And then a short time later, the other general that was leading this half, again 7,000 Confederate soldiers, was also killed. So there was several thousand soldiers over there in those trees with no direction, no way to go. They didn't know that their leadership had been killed. And it sounds like this is a very pivotal moment that could have changed everything. You can kind of make it out. There's a bit of a lane right there that was called Ford's Road. And I guess 7,000 Confederate soldiers come marching down this line, and 600 Union soldiers come out of this area somewhere. Neither of them, they kind of ran into each other, but they did have 3 Union cannons, and they fired into them. The rebels ran straight for the cannons and wound up getting hold of their artillery, and obviously the 600 Union soldiers retreated, and this is where the beginning of the Confederates taking over the Elkhorn Lodge, which is up here somewhere. This is kind of cool. We don't have these guys at home. I'm not sure, is he a snapping turtle? Or what is he? I just saw him as I was driving by. But stop and get a close-up. A little turtle. Oh, scared him. Sorry, buddy. kind of turtle this is, please. Well, we're more than halfway there, but a couple of things I wanted to point out. One, 2 stops I didn't stop at. One was Lee Town, and it was a very small town that kind of served as a medical area, I guess, for lack of a better term, for soldiers, but they said that you really can't see any traces of the town, so I didn't do that one. And stop number 6 was under construction and basically didn't have a lot of battle significance. It just kind of, you can see the Boston Mountains from there, and you can see Bentonville from there, so I didn't do that. But we're at the stop number 7, which is the East Overlook, which we're gonna go take a look at right now. But I did want to point out that most of the places have varying amounts of parking. Almost everywhere has 2 bigger ones. I don't know if they're for buses. I mean, I don't think you could put a 40-foot bus in there, but maybe. But in case you're in an RV and wondering what you can fit in there, almost all of them can accommodate this. There's only one that I stopped at that you could park there if you were the only person. But as you can see, it hasn't been very busy today. In fact, everything that I've gone to since I left hasn't been busy. But I started the weekend after Labor Day, so I hope that's why. Because these are amazing places, and I hope they can stay open, all of it, everything that I've seen. Oh, another cool part, the wildlife. The speed limit around the loop is 25 miles an hour, but I've been going quite a bit slower. That's how I spotted the turtle, and then I just spotted some deer down there too. So yeah, keep an eye out for critters. Pretty cool. We have deer at home. We don't have turtles in Idaho. They just wander around. Awesome. See that squirrel? It's overlooked on a big mountain. Shows you a timeline right here of what date. It's pretty much a 2-day battle. So at sunset, shows you how the troops were lined up and everything. And as badly as I want to tell you the story, it would take entirely too long, and with a brief amount of research that I've done, probably get it wrong. One thing that is very intriguing to me is what this must have looked like. This is mid-morning, March 8th. Both armies are in position. You can see right along here. Just had some, I think it's probably only half the Confederates were lined up on this tree line right below where we're at. But imagine 10,000 soldiers right along here. They'd have been right, gosh, I don't know if you can see it. Try to zoom in if I can, but they'd be right where those cannons are. Would have been the Union side. Just blows my mind to visualize that. This kind of shows some of the areas that we've already been. So this is going back in time. March 7th, the first day. This is where Lee Town would be, where we drove by. And then the Battle of Lee Town and Orbison's cornfield, right in this area. That's where that big line of cannons were, where the 2 generals got killed. And I didn't talk about this, but I did get some film in it. If you can visualize having a battle in there and trying to figure out which direction to go. Just amazingly thick woods. This is the spot where the 600 Union cavalry tried to take down 7,000 rebels. And they have a lot of this fence, so somebody from the Midwest, I've seen this type of fence, log form, but I'm assuming none of that was for the battles. You see it in almost every Civil War movie ever, but I'm assuming it's just general livestock fence, is it not? Is that what they did with it? But these are kind of cool and kind of brilliant. They're cast out of concrete instead of the split logs. blows my mind out here. The walnut trees just grow. I'm sure most of you know, but that's where walnuts come from. Man, oh man, the things I would build with the walnut if we had these in Idaho growing like that. Pretty cool. It's the simple things, right? But be careful walking under them. Just as I said that, and I was walking away, turning off the camera, one dropped. It scared the shit out of me. And they're pretty heavy. This road I'm walking on right now that leads to the Elorn Tavern is called the Old Wire Road, the Telegraph Road, Butterfield Road, and I'm assuming it continues down that way. But the crazy part is we've crossed it. I showed you that little impression there that is kind of remnants of this road, but it was the main supply line for wagons and stuff from Fort Smith to St. Louis. Very nice lady in the Elorn Tavern just told me about that. The Elorn Tavern is very cool. There's a bunch of artifacts in there. It's reconstructed because it was taken down by bushwhackers once upon a time, but it's rebuilt on the original foundation, and the Park Service has whittled down the additions and everything to bring it back pretty much to original. And also in this area are two monuments. One where both Confederate and Union soldiers got together 27 years after the battle, and there's a monument to that, to this meeting here. And then 25 years after, there's a little bit older monument honoring the Confederate generals that died here. So anyway, super cool here at the Elorn Lodge. Final thoughts on Pea Ridge. Definitely worth coming to. I'm looking for a book to listen to. I should always listen to the books before I come, but this actually was a very last minute thing that I was not planning on doing. I was here about 3.5 hours and I thought I was gonna whittle through it pretty quick. So again, probably a pretty solid half a day if you watch the movie in the visitor center, and almost everything's accessible from the vehicle. You're just getting out and walking a little bit. The Overlook and Elorn Tavern are the only two things that require walking, and it's pretty light walking. It's not that far. Elorn Tavern is definitely the furthest, but it's nice and flat and level. And I think it's about a 500-foot walk to the Overlook. Staff here, very helpful, very into what they're doing. I got some great recommendations for food in Bentonville. But all in all, definitely check this one out if you've been thinking about it. And again, just like I did with the Battle of the Little Bighorn, I'm going to listen to a book about it after. Hopefully I've got everything filmed, and if I need to do any additions I can before I edit it, but for the most part this was nice. I had the place to myself almost, and was able to do most of the narration and point things out. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kenny. This is Sagebrush Soul. May the best of your past be the worst of your